Yes, what's up, Queen? How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, excellent. You look beautiful tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be
Um,
here. Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm blessed to have you. Thank you for doing this. I'm excited about the opportunity to bring your story to the people. From hearing the story, I think it's incredible, and I think everyone needs to be able to hear it. And we're going to start off by giving you an opportunity to speak because I think everybody needs to hear you speak. And we're going to just start off again by saying thank you and start off, if you want to, by giving the group a little brief background about yourself.
I'm sorry, I want to preface this with I am currently doing those Yaki three bitters. Um, and I am
Powerful,
purging.
powerful.
I am purging. So please forgive me. I'm gonna do this the best I can. But
You awesome, awesome.
and I'm sorry, can you ask your first question again?
Oh no, no, go ahead. It's all on you. Just start off by giving the group um a little brief background about yourself, name, age, childhood.
All right. So I'm Lashay, as you already know. I currently live out here in New England, born and raised, been here my entire life. And I'm 35 years old. And I don't know, I'm real passionate about this lifestyle because of how it changed my life the way that it has. I mean, I
Mm,
am in a constant state of healing. I'm still healing right now. Um, However, where I started compared to where I am at currently is night and day. Um, I mean, out here, I have two younger siblings. We live with my mom growing up, and we lived in a typical Black American household when it comes to food. Everything was absolutely delicious, but it was your all around everyday soul food or just standard American diet food in general.
mm.
Um, you know, baked mac and cheese, uh, fried chicken, fried the collard greens with the turkey legs in them, and the
Mm.
turkey legs, and you know how we eat cornbread.
Sound very fitting for the times, especially
Right, just like
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving food damn near every day. Um,
Right.
so uh, that's the kind of food that I was raised on, that was considered just like how you eat. And then just the standard American stuff like sloppy joes, hot dogs, pizza, flavored potato chips, Pepsi, Sprite, Coke, all the things, Kool-Aid,
Mm.
ramen. Um, and yeah, eating like that was detrimental to me. And I got into this lifestyle for health reasons because eating and living that way led me to a whole host of medical issues that kind of, it was like an accumulation of it. Like um, early on, what I didn't understand or know to be a symptom at the time, because it's kind of just like normal, so to speak, in our society for women to have like really painful menstrual cycles. And when, like, from what I can remember, when I first started like getting my period, almost immediately my menstrual pains were extreme, like so much pain. I was in every cycle, every month of every year for over a decade, since from being a teenager into young adulthood. Um, I would have to like call out of like, even being like 14, 15 years old, I'd have to not go to school because I'd be like curled up in a ball with debilitating cramps and vomiting and sweating and just like not really being able to function. And I thought that was normal. I thought that it was normal for people to have like super debilitating period pains and cramps. So for years, I just popped Midolls and I'd feel better after the period was over, and then rinse, wash, repeat, next month, next month, next month. Well, kind of ignoring the extremities of those pains led into my adulthood, and it turned into a way bigger issue. Then I was, after a while, I started to exhibit certain physical symptoms in my reproductive organs that I knew wasn't normal. Like I started bleeding every single day, literally, for like 365 days in a year. I would have like a super heavy menstrual cycle. And then after that cycle was over, I'd still bleed every single day for years. I was super depleted of iron because of just how much I bled. And a whole bunch of other health issues came from that. But I ended up like I started noticing I was developing a protrusion in my lower abdomen. And I, finally went to the hospital. Like you would think that a person would we're not even going to talk about that, but I eventually went and started taking care of myself. We will actually talk about that, but it's a little bit further on. Went to the hospital, had to actually get it extracted because it looked like I was pregnant, really. And it was an endometrioma. And we was diagnosed with endometriosis and, all of that. And that was like the first health problem that I developed just from my lifestyle.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly is that endometriosis? What you just call it?
Endometriosis.
Yeah, what exactly is that?
So, a female has like an endometrial lining in their, reproductive organs. And it's when you have a period every month, you're shedding the eggs. That's kind of like, that's sit inside you. You have like that cycle where you're just like shedding your reproductive, like your, I'm sorry, my brain is not working right now. But basically the blood is supposed to go kind of like inside of the uterus, not outside of the uterus. And I was bleeding outside of the endometrial lining, and it was starting to create like tissue from the blood, and it started to stick and accumulate over time. So yeah, it's just blood not really shedding where it's supposed to, shedding outside of the the uterine walls and then sticking and accumulating. So I had like all kinds of crazy hormonal issues. I personally attribute that to how much cheese I used to eat. How much dairy I used to eat. I used to love mac and cheese, and I used to love the ignorant mac and cheese, like the Kraft, like who even eats that? I love that shit.
Right. Nobody eat that right now.
Right.
So
but for whatever reason,
that can cause some damage.
Mac and cheese, man. And I put mad milk inside of it, butter, and I would, but I attribute a lot of the hormonal issues I developed to that. But yeah, that is my dealing with endometriosis. So in like 2016, I would say I believe that was the year I had the surgery to get rid of the endometrioma. I had to be surgically removed. I had an oophorectomy. So I had one fallopian tube and one ovary surgically removed because the endometrioma was just attached to it. And Like immediately after that, I started hormone therapy, like the depot shot. And that was the beginning of my weight issue. So I took the Depo Provera shot to stop the bleeding after the surgery. And I gained probably like 40 to 50 pounds in the span of a few months. I gained so much weight. So I went from being like thin as I always naturally have been to being like damn near 200 pounds. And I've never been that big, like in my whole adult life. So a lot of depression came from that. And that led to emotional eating. And that just led to basically 2.0 of creating newer health issues in my body. And it just only got worse from there, up until about 2020, when I decided that, you know, enough was enough and it was time to change. So that's like I guess the beginning of how I at least it was basically, I got into this lifestyle because I had health issues. What's interesting is I always knew about like holistic living and even the alkaline diet. Like I came across Dr. Sebi in like 2014, 2015. And I was always aware that there was like a natural way of doing things, but I was never, I guess I just wasn't ready in life to start implementing or taking action in that way. I was still way too addicted to food. I was also basically drinking a lot, like almost daily, alcohol. And I just wasn't there yet. Like I knew I could do better, but I just wasn't in alignment with that belief at the time. I basically had to hit rock bottom and be like desperate. Like I had the gift of desperation, because if it wasn't for desperation and if it wasn't for having like the alternative healing method information just floating around in the back of my mind from like being exposed to it, but just not taking it seriously for the longest time, I wouldn't have been prepared for when I was actually ready. But, you know, I'm grateful for everything that I've been through now, now that I'm no longer experiencing the debilitating pain that came with my menstrual cycles and all the health issues that kind of dominoed into my life after that. I'm grateful because if it wasn't for my experience of hitting that low and just feeling that bad, I couldn't be experiencing the transformation that I have now. Like I genuinely believe that if I didn't start developing my health issues, I probably would just be the same exact person. I probably would still be out here hitting up the bars, bar hopping, drinking, smoking weed, eating anything and everything. Nothing would have really changed. So I'm grateful for everything that I have been through. And honestly, the endometriosis and the bleeding, that was just the beginning of my health issues. Like,
I was gonna ask. I heard you say that you drink alcohol every day. Were you an alcoholic? Was it alcoholism? Was it?
I don't know.
What
I
was
don't
that
know if I
experience
would have
like?
labeled it alcoholism. Maybe it was alcoholism. I know I can tell you this for a fact that I am genetically predisposed to alcoholism.
Like so many of us.
Yes. Um,
Yes,
without
yes.
saying too much beyond that, I know that there's a family history. And even growing up, right, I would always tell myself, I would be around people who I would observe drink regularly. And I would always tell myself, like, I am not drinking. When I get older, like, I have no desire for it. It just turned me off how people acted when they were under the influence. And I mean, for the longest time, I held true to that. I didn't even drink until after I was legally able to drink. Like I never got into like drinking early. I started very late. Um, I would say from like 25 to 32 years old is when that was like, I don't know, like 8 years of being in a fog, just being in a fog.
That's so relatable.
Just straight up binge drinking. I literally centered my life around drinking. Like I would plan around drinking. Like I would I would reward myself with drinking. If I had a great day, I would go in and, oh, let's go and have some drinks. Let's go eat. You know, like I was like, that was my favorite pastime. Like that was my hobby. People be like, what is your hobby? What do you like to do for fun? I like to go bar hopping and eating chicken wings. Like that.
And you know, that's so many people though. I mean, like I think that's like the standard American pastime. You know what I mean? Including like standard American diet. So that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's very relatable.
and you know what? When I stopped doing that, I damn near lost all my friends because that was all my connection. I didn't even realize it. I'm like, damn, like you really only hang around people. Like I realized that I didn't have any like really strong relationships, like real relationships with people. It was always like being a wingman. I was always the one who was down to go out and, you know, get drinks. Meanwhile, my actual real life just wasn't together. Like I was abandoning responsibilities, and I would just say that drinking was more escapism than it was addiction, so to speak. Because when I did decide to quit drinking, it was very easy. It was just like simply like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I couldn't do it anymore. Honestly, my body was rejecting the alcohol. It wasn't like I said no, my body said no. But I at least listened to my body. Some people will still put themselves through it trying to drink. Some people really can't physically function without alcohol. Like they have to really be detoxed. And it wasn't like that for me. For me, it was just a lot of mental health stuff. And drinking was escapism. It didn't start off that way. It started off with fun, and I wasn't really a heavy drinker when I did start drinking. It was like once every couple of months socially. But then doing it socially started to make it addictive. Because if you do something enough, I started associating fun with drinking. And then I went through like a really traumatic relationship with someone. And that relationship made me so depressed, and I lost myself so deeply in that relationship that that's really when I started drinking. And I would like to say, honestly, the heavy amounts of alcohol that I would consume, and I love drinking like liquor, like vodka. I would drink anything that was in front of me, honestly. But preferably it would be like vodka. But the heavy amounts of drinking I did definitely suppressed my immune system. So on top of the heavy everyday bleeding, the 365 bleeding, loss of blood, the heavy consumption of alcohol, eating anything and everything that I wanted. I want to say like by the time that I was 30 years old, I'm 35 now. If I didn't already, I'm probably repeating that. But when I was like by 30, I felt like I was 50 something years old, like literally. Like I felt like I was dying because the health issues that I started to accumulate. So outside of the endometriosis, I had hypertension. I had really bad high blood pressure. I had severe anxiety, like debilitating anxiety. And I would always somehow start having a panic when I would merge onto the highway. It was always at the most inopportune times. It's like, bro, like you couldn't have had anxiety like when you just got in a car and just turned on the ignition. Like why you gotta be when we on call?
Right.
Damn, I'm trying to find the closest breakdown lane so I can get in a breath. I had really bad anxiety, panic attacks, heart palpitations, sinus tachycardia. Like my resting heart rate was always over 100 beats per minute, and like sometimes I would be waking up out of my sleep anxious. Like it would be like 3 in the morning and I wake up, my heart beating out of my chest, and now I'm having a panic attack, you know, like I was just tired all of the time, always in a very deep depression, like could barely get out of bed, overweight. I had really, really debilitating back pain. Like my back pain was so bad. But yeah. That was a lot of what I was experiencing. And at that point, by age 30, I still was doing the same shit. You know, like I knew I had to change at that point, but I didn't even know how, almost. Cause like when you're in a pattern, you're doing the same thing every day, it's not easy to just break out of it. Like I was getting to
Right.
that point, like it was bad, but it's really fast forward when I really started taking it seriously. And so I was actually doing, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm just remembering things, but
No, please continue.
so when I turned about 30 years old, I started challenging myself. Actually, I would say like 29, like, yeah, I would say like in 2019, which I was 32, I started challenging myself. I started, like, I would come across certain members on my timeline because I would follow like raw vegans or fruitarians on Facebook. And I followed them for years because, like I said, I was familiar with the lifestyle, and I would even do challenges like back in 2017, like 30-day fruit challenge. I did one with Orville Douglas like back then. And I actually remember feeling the greatest I have ever felt in a very long time then, but just wasn't able to stick to it. Like it wasn't sustainable to me. Like I went right back to drinking. I went right back to smoking. I went right back to eating like animal foods and things of that sort. But it was interesting the contrast of doing something for 30 days and feeling the greatest that I have ever felt in my entire life, but I just wasn't ready yet. You know, I guess just wasn't my time. And then fast forward, just, you know, years of doing the same crap. And then it really started catching up with me around 30 years old. But I was like completely fed up in 2019 because I really had no choice to be. I couldn't breathe. Like I couldn't breathe anymore. I had so much mucus packed in my lungs and in my chest that and I had severe acid reflux. So the reflux was so bad that I was like choking in my sleep. Like I couldn't, like I remember I had a dream while I was sleeping, and I was in a bathroom in the dream, and I was choking. I couldn't breathe. I was trying to like cough and hack and trying to breathe. And then the dream woke me up, and in real life in bed, I couldn't breathe. Like I was choking and I was hacking, and I like ran up in a panic, just trying to like get this thick, viscous mucus out of my neck. So I'm like hacking it up, like just making my throat raw, trying to get this mucus out. And that was really the beginning, because I was like, and I had just moved into this apartment that I live in now, because which was like, honestly, like last year, like last year. But in 2019, I quit drinking alcohol. So my sobriety date was July 27th, 2019 is when I completely stopped drinking. I already had quit smoking a little bit prior to that. So like when I quit drinking, I started my health journey slowly. Like I started going to the gym a little bit, and I was still eating vegan food, because you know how when you quit drinking, you get like crazy sugar cravings. So I was eating a lot of junk food, a lot of candy, a lot of cookies and snacks and things like that around 2019 after I had quit, kind of to just get through like the cravings to drink alcohol. And I did go vegan, but I started eating junk food vegan. I started eating a lot of, you know, faux burgers, like Beyond Burgers, and like faux chicken nuggets, and, you know, just making veganized standard American food. And I got into it for health reasons. I mean, it was perfect. It was sufficient for the transition. However, it was defeating the purpose of why I was even changing my lifestyle in the first place. So I knew I had to go raw. Like, I knew it. I was like, this is what you have been avoiding. This is what you need to do. If you want to feel better, if you want to get better, if you want a better life, if you just want a better quality of life, if you want to breathe again. And I would have like traces of blood in my spit when I would spit up. Like, I had some really serious health issues that I should have went to the hospital to get checked out. But always in the back of my head, I was like, you know, I know this is my lifestyle. I know what I have to do to change this. And I always knew that all I had to do was change and I could deal with it myself. And in hindsight, I'm glad I did it that way. Because if I had gone to the hospital, in my opinion, I know myself, you know, I would have gotten diagnosed. Then I would have ended up going down that rabbit hole of, you know, medical care, getting medical interventions and pharmaceutical pills and things of that sort. I mean, I went there for the hypertension. When I was, that's how I knew I had high blood pressure. I like went into the hospital for a regular checkup. And they were like, you're way too young to have blood pressure this high. They wanted to do surgery on my kidneys to see what was going on. That didn't seem right to me. And I was like, no, I'm going to try to do things naturally before I allow such an invasive surgery on my kidneys. So you can just like poke and prod at me. But I didn't. Like, what's crazy is like with all these health issues, I know this is super irresponsible and I don't like suggest anybody to do that. But I was still like really suffering in silence. I don't like hospitals. I didn't go and volunteer myself out to get like checked. The only time I did is when it got super bad with my endometriosis. And I really had no choice. I had to go to the ER. And then they did all these tests and they were like, yeah, you have an endometrioma. We're going to have to get this thing out of you like ASAP. Like, that's really the only time I really went to the hospital for any of these health issues. And I wouldn't suggest anybody do that because I really could have died just not even taking care of myself. But that's how low I was mentally with my drinking, that I just, you know, you're not even in your body. You can't even, like, I would do it to numb. I didn't feel as bad when I was drinking. And I was like on autopilot with my drinking. So when I had quit drinking, 2019 was the beginning of everything for me. When I quit drinking, that's when I started taking care of myself. That's when I became conscious of the shit that I created in my life. Really.
Well, let's start there again.
Present.
Let's start there again, because so what are you? Are you what does your diet consist of? Are you raw vegan? Do you eat cooked food? Well, what would you consider yourself to be if you had to label yourself?
If I had to label myself, I will say I am on a raw plant-based living food diet. I was eating cooked food, I mean, not too long ago. However, I was really high raw. So I would eat cooked food like every so often. It wasn't a normal thing. But at this time, I've committed to being fully raw because I am still healing. And even though I reversed like 98% of all of the debilitating symptoms that I have noted, I still have like the one last thing, like the Dr. Robotnik of my health issues is just like getting this mucus out of my body. So it is so much better than it was. I can breathe through both nostrils because I had so many congestions. And I can breathe through both nostrils. There are days where I'm just sitting down in the bed and I'm like, I can breathe through both of my nostrils. It is so reinforcing. It's so reinforcing. How could I don't want to eat cooked food anymore, because when I do slip up and eat cooked food, I have like a damn near instantaneous inflammation response. Like instantly, I can already like feel some congestion starting trying to build up in my head, and like it's interesting. But all I know is that at this point in my life, I want to do what works. And the further along I get with cleansing myself, the more it just makes sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense to compromise, because it starts to feel more spiritual than anything at this point. It's not even about food anymore. You know, like, that's how I got here. But now it's really about connecting with who I am and who I'm becoming. And love this for me, because I had some really low self-esteem for a long time. I was not taking care of myself, and all I had to do was start eating natural food to feel more connected to God. And to feel connected to God, well, to feel connected to myself is to be more connected to God. And like, seeing how the food is like living food, and it's literally grown exactly from, I mean, God's green earth. It comes right from the planet. It comes right off of trees. It comes right from the dirt. I feel like there is no other way to live godly than aligning yourself with this lifestyle. And they say, like, cleanliness is the closest thing to godliness. Then I'm going to eat this godly food, and I'm going to get that transfer of energy that's in that living apple that has, you know, all of the angstroms. I'm biting into those, and it's getting transferred in my body, and then I'm just being a greater and brighter person. I love it. And I lost so much weight in such a short period of time. You know, when I
How much weight did you
so in
lose?
2019, after I had quit drinking, I it was like the beginning of the health journey. I wasn't perfect. I became like vegan, and then when just veganism wasn't working, I was like still feeling sick, or if not getting worse. That's when I embarked on um, starting the raw path. So when I first started in 2019, I was about, so my highest was about almost like 198. That was prior to 2019. I did lose um, about 10 pounds, and kind of was able to maintain those little 10 pounds for a couple of years. In 2019, if I can remember correctly, I was like around 189 pounds. And I mean, today I don't really weigh myself. I don't have a scale, but the last time I weighed myself, I was like 115. So
Wow.
I mean, it's a lot of
Wow.
weight, and I am so much thinner than I was then. Honestly, that was not my goal. My goal wasn't to lose weight. My goal was to literally feel better, get healthier, be better, feel better in my body. And I'm glad that I achieved that, and I'm glad of the natural consequence of the weight loss. Um, I love feeling light. I love, I love being thin, not because of how it looks, but because of how it feels. It feels good to walk around lightly. When I was heavier, I could feel something on my body. You can feel it on your legs, you can feel it on your ankles. Like, being short of breath all the time, can barely go up a flight of stairs, can barely stuff. Like, it can be a lot. I just, but yeah, since 2019, that was like the beginning of the trend. I didn't start off perfect, but I would challenge myself. And even throughout that thing, it was basically challenging myself to doing 30 days of fruit only, 3 days of 100% carb. And I would eat cooked food in between. I would even have slip-ups, you know, like, I would have slip-ups, like, they're inevitable. In hindsight, I was beating myself up really bad over the slip-ups we may have, right? Questioning myself, like, what is wrong with you? You think it would be a choice? You know what's best for you? What's wrong with you? I can't get it. Like, super self-sabotaging, you know, thoughts, beating up for myself, not really having time for myself, not realizing you've been conditioned to a certain kind of way after life. You're changing everything. Like, you can't expect to change overnight. You're trying. And I'm happy that now, today, I can say that at the time, I would slip up and just feel like a failure. But those slip ups always became wins, which is why I want to believe I rock, because I have an addictive personality, and I'm learning that. like, I'm not really trying to be like, oh, I'll just have this cooked, because as soon as I kind of like a whole thing like this and see vegan food. Now I'm looking at DoorDash trying to see a new vegan spot, like taking full advantage since I already gave myself a little bit of grace, you know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with eating cooked food, but I just don't want to get here until I feel like I really reach to my, which is cleansing myself. It's gotten so much better. I just incorporated bitters to it. Yeah, 3 bitters, and they're good for different things, your kidneys, your skin, your blood. And it's only been, but what a difference on top of being cold right now. Like right now, I'm 100% food that through juices, just eating fruit, smoothie, and I will say that there was 2 times this month where I had like a raw veggie wrap, you know. But it's been fully raw, and that's how I've been eating currently. I'm really happy with it, and it's so amazing at this point in my journey. There is something about this time that is so internalized, like internalizing. I have zero desire to put, I'm like almost addicted to cleansing and detoxing and like just being, knowing that I'm bringing myself toward that optimal health. And just my mind, the way I think, I have a whole lot more energy, I'm like so much more creative. And I like that. It feels good to think well. It feels good to even get all, I get so many compliments from random strangers all the time, every single day. Oh my God, you're so fit. How do you stay so in shape? And like, what's crazy? I don't even work out. It's 100% diet. Like everybody, like I intend on starting a fitness routine. I know working out is very important for you. However, I just lost weight with, and I feel like anybody who has any kind of issues when it comes to like mobility, and you feel like you're not going to be able to like move around too much for whatever reason, like a torn ACL or, you know, something like that, but you know you need to lose weight, I would say just to consume 100% fruits and veggies, like as unprocessed as possible, because you will lose weight. There's like no way that you're not going to.
Well, that would lead me to my next question. Like, what do you think is the toughest thing or obstacle when transitioning into a plant-based diet?
I mean, my toughest obstacle was my addiction to food and alcohol. I mean, that's what kept me, like, I was trying to even transition when I was on that, but it was the addiction and the pull to food that made my transition hard. I would also say the environment, like social settings, so trying to change, but like having to go to like birthday parties or you know, things like that where everybody is eating all the foods and drinking, and I would say that's hard for the transition. And I found myself starting to decline going to a lot of things just so I'm not putting in myself in an environment where I'm like setting myself up to fail. Just coming to terms with like creating boundaries and just saying no to myself. Yeah, I mean, the better half of my adulthood, young adulthood, I was I was eating a lot and I was drinking a lot. So the transition really is changing my mindset. That was the hardest part, was like mentally accepting the lifestyle, because when I would do something for 30 days, I would feel great, but I also couldn't wait until the 30 days was over so that I could kind of, be more flexible with what I can consume. But at the state of my health at the time, that wasn't wise. Like, it was best for me to continue to be as on track with the program or as committed to the program as possible. But there is just that addictive voice in our head, and then we just have a whole different microbiome going on in our stomach that's just like craving all the things that it's used to being fed. So it's really, when I was challenging myself without even knowing it, it was like a slow drip of changing my gut microbiome, and it became so much easier every time I challenged myself. And with every relapse of eating, just eating unhealthy vegan food, my body would feel it. And that would also become like a negative association to eating those kind of foods. So it always made sense to go back. And I just feel like with every failure, I was like failing forward. It just became easier and easier over the past couple of years of starting. It wasn't like a perfect transition. I did start off in 2020 to really take it seriously, to really try. But I started off knowing that you're probably not going to be perfect, and don't beat yourself up for not being perfect. But you're trying, and we're going to really try and commit to this. So I started off with a 7-day juice cleanse. And this was like March of 2020, like right when the pandemic was all starting, and I was having all of these breathing issues and all this mucus, and like I had like recurring chest infections, and I was always short of breath, severe back pain, and I'm pretty top heavy, like as far as my breast goes, but I was way more top heavy back then, and the weight of my breast would weigh down on my diaphragm and made it that much harder to breathe. So I'd have to to get like a semi deep breath in, I'd have to like lift my breast and like arch my back in a certain way just to try to pull in some air. And I'm like, this is bad. Like, you have to do better. And then when COVID was like the talk of the town, and it was a respiratory related illness, that scared the shit out of me. I was like, this is something that could take me down for real, because I already can't breathe. So that's when I started the 7-day juice cleanse. It was like, it's time to get to work, basically.
Right.
And so I started off with that, and then I did raw, and I was pretty much high raw ever since for the past 2 years. So
Wow.
And now I'm finally transitioning into fully raw.
So being fully raw is your long-term goals.
It is my long-term goal. I mean, I would say after I feel like I have regenerated my body and I'm feeling the best I ever felt, I don't think I could ever go back to eating a fully cooked, even if it's healthy, whole food, plant-based. I won't say I'll never eat that again, but I just want to really challenge myself to doing what I know is going to be best, at least for the short term. If I can go 1 year just being fully raw while taking herbs and really just cleaning my body and going through this regenerative detoxification phase of my life. I'm not saying I'm committing my whole entire life to being a fully raw vegan, but I'm saying for right now, what makes sense is to commit myself at least for 1 year. I've been good about 30-day challenges. Those 30-day challenges would sometimes turn into 90 days or 4 months where I'd be super duper good. And then I would reverse, I'd get off so much weight. There goes that symptom that went away. There were so many benefits to just challenging myself and actually committing to those challenges. But then I would go on some, I'm a real estate agent and I'm on the road a lot. So if I'm not prepared and I'm just hungry, sometimes I'll be like, fuck it. I'm about to hit up Chipotle's and just get me a quick little veggie, burrito. And then I'll eat that.
Right.
But I can't just do that once though. It goes back to my addictive habits that, once I get that little taste of that kind of food, and suddenly I'm craving rice. Now I want, all the things. I want Indian food. So for now, until I get rid of the Dr. Robotnik of the health issues, I just want to be fully committed, you know?
Right, right. Definitely, I feel you. And so do you think eating raw is the optimal way of living?
I do. I do. I mean, for me, I feel like how could it not be? It's
Hmm.
God's diet. Like it's comes from the earth. I can't justify ever going back to eating at least processed food of any kind. And when I say processed, I mean like manufactured food in boxes, you know, and things of that sort. But like eating cooked vegan, I don't think it's bad for you either. I just think that if I had to compare the two, do I want the food with the depleted nutrients because the heat has killed off some of the nutrients and the enzymes, or do I want to eat the fully whole living plant where I'm transferring the highest energy and biophotons and that sun life energy into my body? Like for me, you're getting 100% of the nutrients that come along with that and the vitamins and the minerals. So it makes the most sense to me that eating like a high vibing diet like that would be better for like overall long-term longevity. Like you're not aging your body faster by eating it compared to eating anything that depletes nutrients and that forces your organs to work a little bit harder to digest and assimilate into actual usable energy.
Hmm. So what does a typical day of eating look like for you right now?
Right now, I'm like really weird on the liquids. Well, I won't say weird, but my body's called to liquids. I just feel like I've been drinking so much juice. Like I've been
Your
juicing,
own juice.
yeah, my own juice, cold pressed juice.
Hmm.
I mean, if I'm out and about and I want something really quick and there's like a juice place that has cold pressed juices, I don't mind stopping there and grabbing a quick juice. But at home, I'm making probably at least a gallon of juice a day that I will drink, and then I'll eat fruit when I'm hungry. Yeah, I just keep fruit accessible to me. So if I gotta bite on an apple, then I'm gonna bite on an apple. And
I I think I mean the question I think women in particular will have to ask is like how do you get to that level of discipline?
um, failing a whole bunch of times and feeling how failing feels, you know, physically, and then really just wanting at this point, it's just I've trained myself, I guess, like I've reconditioned myself to want, I
Hmm.
want this for me. Like, and so what it is the positive outcomes of eating this way. It takes time to get there, but it's reinforcing. It's super reinforcing. So when I sat down and I was in my bed and I was scrolling on my phone and realized that I could get in a nice deep breath, it was like, yo, because I was just thinking about how just not even a couple of months ago, I was so congested in my brain and my head and my nose. Like even though I had all these other symptoms that went away, the congestion, like the crystallized mucus that's going on in my head is stubborn. So I know I have to be aggressive. And it helps to learn while you're doing it when you're reading books, like and listening to different podcasts. Like I love Yaki. I love listening to him, the way he breaks things down. And at this point, this is even beyond how it makes me feel. It's also about I'm attaching this way of life to the evolution of our planet. I mean, if anybody's
Mm.
paying any kind of attention to what's happening in the world right now, it's kind of chaotic when it comes to like social and global politics. And I just feel like everything's on fire. And this is my way of creating peace in my life. Like it really does make me feel centered and like I actually have control. I can't control none of that stuff. I can only control what goes on over here, and I have the greatest control over what I consume. And I feel like personally raising my vibration with this lifestyle, number one, it disconnects me from the matrix in a huge way. I lose my dependency on their food-like products, the things that everybody eats and feels like they need, foods they're addicted to, all the salts and the oils and the sugars and the cheeses and the meats and the potato chips and soda, and it's like all the crap that everybody eats. You know, if there is any kind of societal collapse, and I'm not saying there is going to be, but I'm saying if there was, there's a whole bunch of drug addicts out here who's not going to get access to their, you know, to their products, their food-like products that they're addicted to, on top of a whole lot of other things, the alcohol and the weed and the tobacco products and all this stuff that kind of takes over our life and creates our identity. We created whole identities and cultures around a lot of these aspects of lifestyle. And I feel like it would be very easy for me to live off of the land. It would be nothing for me to just be like, okay, I'm gonna go where the orange trees are at. Or I'm gonna go where, you know, I'm just gonna migrate south and I'm just gonna find me some trees and some community gardens that I can eat out of. You know, like it would be a very simple way, and it's good to transition myself mentally, physically of that mindset to know that you can live a simpler life. Like you don't have to have all of that stuff. It's not required. And there's a lot of misinformation about it being required. And my view of the world makes it easier for me to live this way because I feel like it's like a revolutionary act to get reconnected with nature. You know, like it's super revolutionary to be connected with nature, and time to start disconnecting ourselves from this matrix, because the matrix is crumbling. Like Babylon is falling, everyone. Like we need to get with the program or we're going to get left behind with Babylon. So you want, people talk about just pray, put it in God's hands. I mean, God gave you the food. It's definitely going to help you heal your body. It's definitely going to help you heal your mind and your mental health issues. It's going to make you a stronger person, more connected, more firm inside of your body. You know, your soul is just going to elevate. Your electromagnetic energy in your aura is just going to grow. It's like that protective bubble that you're going to need in the kind of world that we're going into. Like raise your vibrations. There's no easier way to do it. Like the life hack of raising your vibration is start eating high vibration food. It's like really that simple. We make life so hard, but it isn't that hard. I promise you. We just have to unlearn and recondition ourselves. So that's what's making it easier to maintain my discipline, because now I'm seeing it in a whole different light. And what I love is people who knew me before when I was sick and I was tired and I was angry and negative all the time, they can't even believe I am who I am. Like, and I'm starting to see my personal influence just by sharing pictures of myself. So sharing pictures of the food that I'm eating, sharing the juices that I make, and just sharing all of the wonderful information that all the other really health conscious people that I follow now since joining this community. I share a lot of their content, and I'm exposing the people in my little hemisphere of the world who are on my Facebook, my friends, my family. I'm exposing them to this newer way of living. And a lot of them started to think I was crazy until they saw who I am becoming, you know? So I feel like that's my way of changing the world, just by simply changing myself. So if I raise my personal high vibration, I feel like I'm raising the vibration of the earth. It's like a spiritual battle. We need more people raising their vibration right now if we want to win this. But you can't change the world without changing yourself first. So it's all about the high vibes.
Yeah, definitely. Facts. I mean, I think I said that before myself. Very powerful. Wow. So who are some of your inspirations or influences in this community?
I mean, being just completely exposed to talking about the mucusless diet and alkaline eating and things of that sort, that was like Dr. Sebi. That's who planted the seed for me. And then I discovered Dr. Robert Morris, and I would binge watch a lot of his videos. But when it comes to the actual influencers, like the people who are really out here living that life, and like in a way that I'm like, oh my God, I'm awestruck. Like goals, that's what I want to do. That's where I want to be. I would say Fully Raw Christina. Like if you look at her content, like, yes, give me that. Like she lives in like a tropical environment where it's just like warm 365 all times of the year. She's got her own land. She pretty much grows most of everything that she eats. She's in an environment where she's like in a community of people who share crops with each other. Like that's really, if I could picture myself like my optimal life, just like getting back to the earth. Like I'm one of those people, like I hate working. I hate working and I hate that I have to work. But I don't mind working in regards to like if it's me tilling my own land and I'm not gonna eat, if I'm not feeding myself, you know, but I'm okay with that kind of work because it's still the kind of work, it's meaningful work. It's work that gives back to the earth that I consume from. You know, I'm replanting seeds and I'm feeding myself, I'm feeding people around me, like, and it's something that's good that goes into their body. It's not just saying, it's not like the SNAP program, EBT, the government thinks that they're helping people, giving them access to like really low vibrational, unhealthy foods. You know, like, yeah, sure, you're keeping their stomach full, but you're not feeding them on a cellular level. You know, like you're not encouraging them to eat anything that would nourish them on a cellular level. It's just like you got to go into, you just got to eat whatever's accessible, basically. But yeah, like fully raw Christina, Lissa, raw, what is it, raw food romance. There's people now like Ron Radiant. I love following her on Instagram. Her name is Ashley Chong, and she raises her daughter to be like, I don't know if her daughter is fully raw, but I know her daughter is vegan. And the girl is like so healthy, so strong. And if I were to have children, that's exactly how I would intend on raising them. If I were to be pregnant, I would be fully raw. I don't think there would be anything wrong with that. And I believe that's how you break generational curses. Like it starts with you, and then you clean your body out, and then you're giving birth to clean babies, and then you're making sure they eat clean, and hopefully the tradition can go forth, and then your lineage becomes like a super clean line of high vibing, like super receptive human beings who are going to be here to do good on this earth.
Beautiful, beautiful. Those are some very powerful people that you are inspired by as well. People who really, really live the lifestyle.
Yes, and that's the key.
Yes, definitely. You have such an amazing story. Right now I hear you say you're doing a lot of juicing. What are some of your favorite juice recipes?
So my newest favorite one is the one that Jenny put me on to, which was the watermelon, pineapple, and mint juice. It's fire and it's cheap because it's a watermelon and you can get so much juice out of it. Another favorite would be apple lemon ginger juice. So good. So good. And another one that I did the other day that I'm obsessed with is Concord grape and apple juice. So good.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, so I got one real last question for you on this note. How important do you think it is for women in particular to adopt or try to adopt a plant-based lifestyle?
I think it's very important for women to adopt a plant-based lifestyle because before anything else, women are the first teachers of their kids. And they're the ones who, I mean, traditionally have fed the family. So what they prepare, everyone eats. So if a woman dictates what kind of food goes on the table from the beginning, she is conditioning the generation that, you know, she's responsible for to see living food and working for that food, like having to go out in the fields, planting the seed, tilling the land, doing all those things, like working for, you're teaching them that everything that you consume, you have to work for, not in the traditional sense, like you got to get up every day and go to a corporate job, push some papers around, get a paycheck, go to the store. Like, yeah, that's how most people live. But I feel like where I want to be in regards to just like owning land and living off of my own land. My beautiful image of why it would be important for me as the woman of my household would be that I'm teaching the generation that I'm responsible for in my bloodline how important it is to be connected to the soil, um, to just be grateful for, it, because, you know, we take so much for granted because we don't have to really work for it. We just are able to go to a grocery store and have food transported over to us from all over, and other people had to work and sit in the fields and sweat so that we can consume everything that we consume. So just like teaching them that real practical aspect of existence, that everything that you work for, it comes with a price, it comes with some sacrifice, you have to work for it. And then them also having a sense of pride and gratitude to be able to eat something and nourish their bodies with something that they worked really hard for, something that they actually grew, and just like witnessing the magic of nature, of just like this weird little seed that you put in the dirt and put some, you know, the water and the sun, it all works together, and all of a sudden it just grows miraculously, this like beautiful plant that you can eat, and it has like all these wonderful benefits to your body and your mind. And then so I would say it would be important for women in that aspect, because if more women were aligned with this lifestyle, you'll start to see a lot of changes in society. Like, I feel like the world would change overnight. Like, if the government was like, all right, everybody has to eat raw living food, and that's a mandate, and we had no choice but to do it, you would see the world change overnight. I mean, you would see a lot of people go through some addictions. It won't change overnight. I'll say it will change in like 2 or 3 years, because people gonna be addicted and they're gonna go through withdrawals. But
right. Definitely,
but
definitely.
you're gonna see the good transition over time. I feel like people are just gonna change. All of our problems won't even be problems anymore, because we won't be associating with real destructive habits like the way that we do. You know, like when I quit drinking was the beginning of my transformation, because it made me present. I wasn't drunk anymore. It made me present. It made me look at what was in front of me, and now I had no choice but to face it and take care of it, and do it. So like the vices going away. I feel like just women in general, they're always going to be like a child's first teacher, but then also keeping her man healthy, you know, so that he can still be there to protect and provide and do all the things and build that men do. Just like healthy families. And I think it does start with women, really, because we're the ones who influence men in a lot of ways. Men work to basically attain companionship with a woman, you know, like that's, so I feel like we dictate a lot of the terms, and that's why things are so dysfunctional right now, because women really aren't functional anymore. Women's standards are super low, they're more superficial, they don't really care to want to be in relationships, because, you know, we can work and we can attain our own things. But I do feel like that doesn't help children, you know, and so if we have better decision-making skills with the kind of men that we choose to be with and have children with, and we have our minds right, we can influence that man in a positive way. We can give him power and energy and confidence, and just make him believe that he can achieve anything with, you know, my support or any woman's support. And just, we take care of all the other things so that they don't have to think about it, you know? So yeah, it's important for women to play a productive and a happy and a stable and a high vibrational role in these relationships and in these families, for that reason. And I'm sorry for the long-winded response, but I can't
No,
help
no.
myself.
I actually agree with every single word of that.
I know that's a
I
controversial
can't lie.
question because I know a lot of women are all about female empowerment and feminine, what do they call it? Feminism and all of that.
Yeah,
And I get it. I understand. And I understand, gender roles and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that I even agree 100% with gender roles. I think everybody should always pull their weight and anybody can cook and anybody can clean. I understand and I get it. However, it's not a debate about that right now. It's really about what can we do to really make our families more functional because they're dysfunctional right now. So you can be as a high-ho feminist as you want to be, but let's just take a look at the state of relationships right now on the planet. Like, clearly there's a lot of dysfunction on both sides. So I feel like if, women became more in tuned and got back to nurturing themselves and their bodies, it's going to have a natural influence on the man in her life. And it's going to have a natural influence on the children because they're going to see those relationships be strong and be healthy. They're going to feel safe and secure. They're not creating any kind of traumas that they have to get therapy for later on in life. I just feel like on a really fundamental level, when you're grounded and you're putting the best kind of things in your body and you're doing your breathing exercises and you're working out and you're doing your meditation and you're just being a well-rounded human being, it makes it easier for you to handle the people around you or influence them in a positive way. You can only influence somebody by how you live, period. Like, you can't nag your way into anybody's change. You can't do that. All you got to do is be the rock and be the peace and be the example, and they will follow.
very powerful, very powerful. I think you made a good point when you change the way you eat, it naturally changes the way you think. So people who get on that eating that high vibrational food won't even think the low vibration. So very excellent point. Wow. Plant-based miracles. You hear this powerful, powerful individual. Let me ask you this. What do you think about the smoothie challenge that I was doing or that I'm currently doing?
I think it's excellent. What I like about a smoothie challenge versus a juice challenge, especially for people who are just being introduced to the lifestyle in general, is they're getting not only the hydration from the fruits, but they're also getting the fiber that comes along with it too. And I think that smoothies are generally more filling than just drinking juices. So I think it's great. I think they're easy. It's easy to clean up. I mean, I got a Vitamix, so when I do a smoothie, you just throw everything inside of it, you spin it, you pour it into your cup, and then you just gotta rinse it off. So like smoothies are so much easier
Right.
than doing a juice. Juicing is labor intensive as so
Yes. Inexpensive.
yeah, and very
Yep.
expensive. And that's another reason why I think it's a great idea. And I think it's a good idea because your digestive system is still getting a break compared to eating a lot of food.
Hmm.
It's a whole lot easier to digest and process than, eating and chewing and swallowing. Cost effective, is a whole lot cheaper, and you're getting the fiber, so you're pushing things along and it's more filling. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good way for somebody's reset if that's, if it's like a 30-day reset to do only smoothies. And I think it's a perfect timing because we're right here at the end of the year. So it's like the perfect way to usher in a whole new year, to just start off with those good habits instead of waiting until the first and, New Year's resolutions, blah, blah. You're good for 2 weeks and then you get back to regularly scheduled programming. I think it's a good ceremonial way to usher in a new year, even though I think like technically starting a new year in the dead of winter, everything's dead, is like completely retarded. And we all know it's really in the spring, but we'll go on.
Right, right.
because it's
Definitely.
ceremonial for a lot of people, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea. And I know you're going to have a lot of success with that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it, appreciate it. Well, let's first, before we end, let's get to any questions that we may have on here. Um, I've been seeing a lot of stuff. Marcus Plantman, of course. What's up, man? Very hydration food that is empowering. She makes a great case for raw fruitarian. Very interesting. Thank you. Tiff Moore, what's up, Tiff? She said, good, you drinking a gallon? There's not really any questions in here. So powerful, Queen. You explain things so well, there's no need for questions.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I was really nervous in the beginning. I loosened up a little bit as I continue to speak.
That's usually how it works. But, you know, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I reached out to you. You accepted it, you know, with ease. And I just want to say that your story is amazing. I think you're a very spectacular individual. Very well spoken. You explain how you feel and what you go through very well. Very inspiring to know that you overcame all the things that you have. And I think that your story and just you being who you are is going to help a whole lot of people. And thank you very much. This was an excellent way of telling your story, and I'm so glad you shared it with the group.
Well, thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. You're welcomed. I'm really grateful to be here. And I've always been a little bit camera shy. So like I've been asked to do like, you know, interviews and things in the past. And I've always like kind of skated around doing it. But, you know, you're very easygoing and laid back. And I knew it would be like more conversational than anything. And that's just kind of like how I am. I'm not like super structured, and I'm just like, you know, very free spirited to kind of like just do what I do. So this was enjoyable. Thank you for having me on your platform. Thank you, Tiff. I love you and your story too. Very, very inspiring. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Fred, for just listening in. I appreciate all of you guys. So.
Yes, beautiful. Well, that ends another Saturday. Thanks again. Anybody who has any questions, please leave them. We'll definitely answer as many as we can. And we'll be back again next Saturday with another one. And thank you very much. Thanks again, Queen. This was great. Everybody have a great night, Plant-Based Miracles.
Good night.
Peace.